Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Call for More podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Perez, and this is episode 3, which I'm so excited to be back. I'll always be excited, although I have been watching back my videos and I don't look excited. I feel like I just kind of have this poker face, but I promise you guys, I really am excited. I don't know why I look like that, but these are my two favorite passions, faith and psychology. Today's episode is titled The Power of Life or Death. And I felt really led to talk about this huge responsibility that we all carry, and it lies in this tiny little organ called the tongue. And I want to do a deep dive as well on the science behind it, research, and of course the scriptures. So I want to open up with Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21, and it reads, "The tongue can bring death or life. Those who talk will those who love to talk will reap the consequences." So I might be wrong, but I think a lot of us know this verse in mainstream culture. We just don't know that it comes from the Bible. I mean, really, I think we all know that if you continue to speak negatively to yourself, to the people around you, you're going to hurt others, and it's just going to be a negative impact on yourself, and vice versa. If you talk positively to yourself, to the people around you, you can really uplift others. So I think we all know that, but of course the Bible has it written down, and there's so much science to back it up, because really science is just trying to catch up to what God has already written, what God has already created. And I hope I don't bore you guys with the podcast, so I'm really crossing my fingers that you guys can follow along, because to me, it's very fascinating to be able to connect everything, to be able to connect so many different, science and the faith aspect, psychology, talking about the brain and brain structures. I think it really leads to a more enriching, information that we can all grasp onto. So I did get a lot of my information from Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she is one of my favorite Christian neuroscientists. And one of the quotes that she often says is, "When you teach people how to think, they will find God," which is kind of funny. I hope it doesn't offend anyone, or at least offend people that are not of the faith. But truly, when you think about the world, when you think about the power that we all even have and how it can really create life or take life, it's truly amazing. Like, there must be a creator, there must be a designer behind the design of the human. So let's begin with talking about the brain, which is there's so many facets to the brain. I mean, we can go on and on for hours and hours just talking about this amazing creation. And neuroplasticity researchers actually tell us that the brain is malleable. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but basically it means to change. Neuro means brain, and plasticity means to change, which is amazing news, guys. We should throw a celebration to know that God created our brains to rewire and to transform, that we have that ability. We're not stuck in the same mindset forever. And if you are, that's a red flag. This is incredibly important to know, because our brain really controls our body. You know, what we think can really manifest itself into somatic symptoms, into something that affects our physical body, and it all starts in the brain. And we're constantly building thoughts in our head, right? Even as you listen to me right now, protein structures are being created in your brain that are retaining the information that I'm telling you. But if you don't do anything with this information that I tell you, such as take notes, reflect on it, do further research on it, just think deeper on it, those protein structures will eventually denature. So I say this to say that we all have such a huge responsibility to how we respond to the world, to how we respond to the scriptures that we read, how we respond to, the seminars that we go to and listen to, what we learn. Really, we have to be intentional and be disciplined to try to implement methods that will help us retain this information, again, so we can just enrich our mind. And so, although we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we speak and whether we speak life or death over ourselves, over the people around us. So we really need to be disciplined into controlling our mouth, which can be very hard in certain circumstances, right? Like if someone cuts you off at a red light, it can be sometimes hard to control your mouth. But I'm hoping that with this explanation of how impactful our mouth is, that it will really make you think twice about the things that you say so freely, maybe. And so we're going to talk a little bit about quantum physics. So again, I'm crossing my fingers that you guys can follow along and find it interesting. Every word that we speak releases a quantum package of energy. Okay, guys, this is science. This is not something crazy that's just coming out of my mouth. Science says that energy is released every single time that we speak. And there was actually an experiment that analyzed the brain waves, which revealed that painful and negative words increased activity in the area of the brain that plays an important part in regulating emotion. It showed that negative words have the power to produce stress and anxiety producing hormones in the human subjects that were part of this experiment. Even when negative words were just imagined, it impacted their emotions into a negative path. And so the mind is obviously one of the most powerful things on this earth, of course, aside from God. But on the flip side, part of this experiment, the simple act of engaging with positive words, whether verbal, written, or imagined, also has the power to affect your brain for the better at a biochemical level, really. So really, quantum physics is an attempt to describe the power of God, which has already been laid down in the Bible, because the Bible has been here for many years, right? And so that's kind of what I'm trying to help you guys understand, that quantum physics is also saying the same thing. It's backing up what God has already said. And I think it can be scary when I speak out loud about this energy that we release when speaking, because it can be confused with New Age practices. But this is not New Age. This is science, and this is God's creation. You see, when we bring God into the equation of the things that you do, it will be used for His glory. And what New Agers do, they say to manifest, right? But God says to pray without ceasing and to use your tongue to speak life. And we have to remember that there are counterfeits for everything. I feel like I said that in my first episode. What God has created, the enemy steals, he twists it, and he sells you a power that is not connected to the vine, which is Christ. There is no longevity in any of those principles. They may work for a season, but it will not produce fruit. What it's going to produce is going to produce weeds. We need to take back really the self-help ideas that the world sells us and then abide in the power of God and in Him only. We have to stop mixing these New Age principles, these New Age concepts with the Lord. Like, you cannot mix the two because they are coming from two very distinct sources. And it's very black or white. There is no gray. And so we can think freely, right? We have this free will to think about whatever we want. A lot of people, thoughts roam in their brain, whether it's positive, negative. They really don't kind of sit down and analyze what are the thoughts that are running throughout their mind. But with your free will, you make choices that have the power to change the physical substrate of your brain in either a wrong direction or a right direction, or a positive one. You can choose a life-giving word or a life-taking one. I used to be someone, honestly, just reflecting transparently on myself in my past. I was someone who honestly cussed in every single sentence, would talk bad about myself. I would go into these long negative self-talks. I just look at myself in the mirror and just say all of these things that it's honestly not even worth repeating. I would talk negatively about others. I would joke about dying and verbally joke about ending my own life, which that's a super popular one, especially in our younger generation and especially in therapy, a lot of clients say like, oh, I'm having such a bad or hard day. I'm going to kill myself. And obviously they don't mean it, but knowing again the impact of your words, we have to be very careful of not only what comes out of our mouth, but what thoughts we entertain. Because again, like I just said a few moments ago, it has the power to change our physical brain structure or the structure of our brain. But people don't know. They don't know the power that they release when they speak. And something that really stuck out to me was my pastor once said something when he was talking about this very subject in one of his sermons. And he said that taming our tongue is especially important in relationships. This can be in romantic ones, in ones with our siblings, with our friends, with even our coworkers. And if you are irresponsible with how you speak, you can shatter the people around you, really. And you can shatter your wife, your husband, your children, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. You can keep these generational curses going and going with what you release out of your mouth. And now imagine trying to repair back what has already been said out of your mouth. It's hard, right? Like you can't really like imagine just going off on someone and trying to take it back. You can't anymore. It's already been said, which again, it's just so important to develop this discipline, which I'll definitely go into as this podcast goes on further. I'll implement some tips that we can do so that we can be just more mindful about the things that we say. And let me read to you this very powerful verse that I found in Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. Today I have given you the choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice that you make. Oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live. That's so impactful. The Lord is literally telling you, you have a choice. And I'm giving you two options. Again, there is no gray. It's life or death. And what you do with that choice is going to impact your descendants, and it might even equal you even having generations to come. And so there is no excuse, right? Just because we're triggered, it doesn't mean we have the right to curse someone out, to whatever it may be. There is never an excuse. And it's really time that we all start taking accountability for what we say. And another verse, Matthew chapter 12, verse 34, and it says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I really like this verse because a lot of us can say that, oh, I didn't mean what I said. Like, I want to take it back because I actually like, especially in toxic relationships, people who often talk really horribly to each other, the way that they try to repair their relationship is saying like, I didn't actually mean that. I didn't really mean that. But the Bible is saying that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So it's already something that is cultivated within your heart. There's a root there that's stemming in the heart. And that's that's what's influencing your mouth to speak. Again, whether it's positive or negative. And every single thing that happens to us, we always have a choice to decide how we speak, how we respond. And I actually witnessed a very powerful miracle in my life last year. And I can't wait to one day talk about it and just dedicate maybe 2 episodes to it because I think it's incredibly... There's nothing that can compare to it so far in my life. In my 24 years of life, I have never witnessed something so tangible and really this verse coming to life 100%. Last year, my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She's very healthy, actually. She eats well. She's physically active. She's not a smoker. So this really came out of nowhere. And when she told me the news, you know, she was very shattered. She was very scared because, again, she's a mother of 2. And I know she was thinking about the impact that it would have on myself and my younger brother and what would life look like? You know, your head kind of starts thinking about all these what ifs or how am I going to surpass this? How are my children going to surpass this? My siblings, etc. So that's kind of where she was coming from. And so she came to me, obviously extremely distressed. And when she told me the news, I just knew right away, something just clicked in my brain. I'm like, I could either have allowed it to debilitate me and my family, or I had a choice in that very moment to speak life over it. And this is not to say that I was in denial, right? I knew, I believe what the MRI scans, what the PET scans showed. I believe what the doctors were saying. But I serve a God who is bigger than the reality that I live in. And the Bible even says, set your mind on the things above, not on the things of this earth, because the Lord is not, he's bigger than everything on this earth. And so right away, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I canceled that diagnosis and you will not die, but you will live. And the cancer had actually been eroding away her hip bone. She began to, walk with a limp because it was hurting. There was, of course, a tumor in her lung that was growing. And after some months of, chemotherapy, of radiation, she was cured. She was cured, and her bone even grew back to normal. It's as if there was never any erosion that happened around that hip bone. And of course, this is a story for another day. There's just so many miracles that we experienced from the Lord. But that very moment, my brain had already been trained to think like, okay, life or death, life or death. And that's what I really want to inspire all of you guys to be thinking like. We need to stop going directly to the negative. We need to stop thinking like, oh my gosh, like my life is over now, and start all this huge like tornado full of darkness that can really begin to grow within our mind. And we need to choose life every single time. And so I'm not saying that every situation is going to be easy, that sometimes choosing life won't be extremely hard. It was hard for me, but again, I had been practicing this in my personal life, the way that I spoke to myself. I had changed a lot of negative habits that I was doing. And so when my mom came with this diagnosis, I was ready. I was ready, and I was ready to go into action. And I know that my words just uplifted her so much. And even though the people around you may not believe it, because my mom, she was still very scared and there was a lot of fear that gripped her, it still was something that she one day realized. She's like, you know what, my daughter's right. Like, I'm going to choose life and I'm going to cancel this diagnosis, and I will not die, but I will live. And with all of this, I want to end with some key takeaways about how we should be thinking and how we should be speaking. And let me read Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, where Apostle Paul says, and I quote, "And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise." So here in the Bible, we have a blueprint of what we should be filling our minds with, what we should be spending time thinking about. Never in the Bible does it say, oh, spend your time being anxious and thinking about all the horrible things that can happen. No, it's clearly saying to think about the truth, about honorable things, about the right things, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and things that are worthy of praise. And we must learn how to discipline our mind and thoughts to submit under the scripture, and to really learn how to impact our brain to rewire itself to think like this. And of course, there is a battle in your mind. A lot of people may be even listening to me and saying like, but you don't understand like what I struggle with, what I battle with in my mind. And I definitely understand that. As a therapist, psychologist, whatever you want to call it, we clearly know that there is a battle of the mind. There is a war that goes on in your mind every single day, but we have tools to implement. And I just want to name two really quickly. And the first one is, don't believe everything that you think. Therefore, don't say everything that you think. When we speak, it should really be to edify others. If what you are about to say is going to hurt someone or hinder someone in their walk, honestly, keep it to yourself. Truly, you may get a negative thought about even yourself. Don't believe it. Literally, don't believe it. Don't repeat it and don't dwell on it. Do not meditate on it. In the Bible, it says to meditate on the word, on the scriptures, because the scriptures are good. The scriptures give you life. And that's what we should be meditating on. That also just makes me think about how mainstream meditation is all about emptying your mind. We shouldn't be emptying our mind. We should be filling our mind with the truth, because the truth sets you free. It can set you free from that battle that's going on within inside of your head. And number 2 is guard your mind from garbage. If you put bad data into a computer, you're going to get bad results, right? Common sense again. If you put garbage into your mind, you will get garbage out of your life. It's bound to happen. If you're just watching a bunch of heavy violence, I mean, if we think about all these, like Ted Bundy, he said that one of the reasons that had led him to kill all these women, rape all these women, was violent pornography. You know, he was filling his mind with absolute garbage, which impacted, again, let's go back to the science of what I said earlier, that what you think and what you meditate on will end up changing the physical structure of your brain. And he's one of 1,000 examples that I can bring up. And actually in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 14, it says, "A wise person is hungry for knowledge, while the fool feeds on trash." So let's not feed on trash. Let's feed on knowledge, on wisdom, on the good things, on the truth. Your thoughts are real things. And so when you release the negative or a toxic thought, your body actually takes it in as a virus, which is something new that I learned as I was researching for this podcast, that literally since your thoughts have energy, and if they're negative, your body goes into action to try to fight it, because it literally thinks it's a virus. And so we wonder why there's so many people whose mental health manifests, or negative mental health manifests into physical symptoms. And it's literally because of this. What goes on in your mind isn't invisible. It's real and true. Don't just guard what comes out of your mouth, guard what comes into your mind. I'm going to read a quick verse from Matthew. It says, "Your eye is like a lamp that provides light to your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness." So again, it goes back to this concept of watch and guard what you're allowing yourself to watch, what you're allowing yourself to listen to, and even what you're allowing yourself to get spoken over. I mean, you might have a group of friends that's always talking trash. Get rid of those friends. It will impact you. And I just encourage you all to be intentional with everything. Reflect on yourself and ask yourself, why do you watch the things that you watch? Why do you listen to the things that you listen to? Why do you hang out with the people that you hang out with? You should be someone who is self-aware of every action, of the why behind every single action. It's much easier to track down why our mind, emotion, and behaviors are impacted when we can analyze and pinpoint where the thing went wrong. That's why, honestly, that's why people go to therapy. They seek help from a professional to help guide them back to the root and begin the healing or the cleansing of their soul, mind, and life. And this podcast isn't to supplement the help of a licensed professional, of a pastor, of a church. It's really just to give you the information to influence you to become a healthier human, to make better choices, to impact the world in a positive light. And so with all of that, I will catch you guys on my next episode. And please subscribe if you're watching. I think I'm at like 58 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing, on YouTube. And I'm almost at 300 followers on Instagram. So go over to my Instagram, which is @calledformore. Give this rating, or this podcast, a rating on Apple and Spotify. It would help me, guys. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. It would help me out so much, you guys. But yes, I will catch you on the 4th episode next Friday.